Elly De La Cruz just has a strange knack for breaking records. And by records, I mean long-standing ones that have stood for decades. Records that most sports fans have forgotten about. However, the shortstop, who currently plays for the Cincinnati Reds, wasn't even considered a top talent. But today, he has his eyes set on becoming one of the greatest baseball players in history. When he signed with the Reds, De La Cruz said, "This is an opportunity that I've earned. My goal is everywhere that I go, I want people to know how good I am. That's all I have in my mind. Every league that I go to, I want to be the best player that the team has." With a batting average of .264 this season and a .242 over his career, De La Cruz is proving his many doubters wrong. In his first 98 career appearances, he achieved at least 91 hits, 13 home runs, 44 RBIs, and 35 stolen bases. Incredible numbers for someone who wasn't exactly considered a top prospect when he signed. In fact, when he signed in 2018, the front office wasn't expecting him to show this much potential. But fast forward a few years, and De La Cruz broke the record for the fastest infield throw with a throw of 99.8 miles per hour. Weirdly, most of his achievements appear to be going under the radar, as no one seems to be noticing his exploits. Maybe it's because he isn't exactly the most glamorous baseball player. He just gets on the field and does his job. De La Cruz is also quite the mama's boy, who often wears a necklace with a pendant containing his mother's photo. According to him, he wears the necklace to remind himself of all the times he doubted he could make it to the big leagues. It also reminds him of the challenges he faced growing up in his home country, the Dominican Republic, and how all he ever wanted was a baseball jersey. It also reminds him of when his mother told him that no matter how far his baseball career goes, she'd always be proud of him. In an interview, De La Cruz said of his mother, "I just want to give everything to her. She's why I'm here, and why I want her to feel proud of me." For him, the journey to the major league began when he was only 6 years old. The youngest of 9 siblings, he left his home to go live with his coach's brother to better his chances of becoming a pro. Living with him, Cruz had access to the best training facility in his city, although we all know that the facility wasn't exactly up to the standard that kids in the US are exposed to. But the kid from the Dominican Republic was determined to live his dreams. Following his relocation, De La Cruz started playing baseball in Sabana Grande de Boya, a town with a population of only about 34,000 in the southeast region of the Dominican Republic. The town didn't have an organized little league that helped shape young kids into professional prospects, but De La Cruz showed his promise, hitting tennis balls and rubber balls as a childhood hobby. When he turned 10, his coach recommended that he move to the capital city, Santo Domingo, so he could stand a chance at being recognized nationally in the Dominican Republic. It was in Santo Domingo that De La Cruz learned that there was a path from the Dominicans to the big leagues, as he saw some of the older players get signed by MLB organizations. Although watching others get signed to Major League Baseball inspired him, De La Cruz considered quitting baseball several times before this period. He was competing against kids who had rich parents and could afford nicer equipment, giving them a better chance of being noticed by scouts. But more than his inferior equipment, De La Cruz just wasn't good enough to get attention from scouts, and turning pro seemed impossible. Yeah, the same person who is currently smashing records couldn't get the attention of any scouts. "Nobody really noticed me," De La Cruz said. "Scouts didn't really like me. In the academy, I wasn't making the cuts during tryouts, and that's why I wanted to go back home." In 2018, he was eligible to sign, but the offers weren't exactly pouring in because, at the time, he didn't look like a special talent. But fortunately for him, as the window was closing, he got an invitation to work out in front of scouts in Santo Domingo. However, since De La Cruz wasn't good enough, he got paired with another shortstop to make him look good. Recounting the experience, he said, "I was at the program where I practice in the Dominican, and a scout from the Reds came out to see the other shortstop that was there. They saw me because I was playing too. The next day, they came back and said, 'We want to sign you,'" he added. While De La Cruz was trying to pin a contract, the Cincinnati Reds were serving a punishment. In the 2018 international signing period, the Reds were one of the 8 teams that couldn't spend more than $300,000 on a single player. They were serving the penalty for exceeding their cap 2 years prior. So, even though they had the largest bonus pool that season, most of the biggest names were off limits because they were serving their penalty. This meant the Reds had to settle for players like De La Cruz, who were not exactly the top picks. On July 2, 2018, De La Cruz signed with the Cincinnati Reds as an international free agent, receiving a $65,000 signing bonus. His signing wasn't such a big deal. The Cincinnati Reds were his only option, and they didn't expect much from him. After signing for the Reds, since he wasn't in the organization's immediate plans, De La Cruz made his professional debut in 2019 with the Dominican Summer League Reds at the age of 17, hitting .285, .351, .382, with 1 home run and 3 steals in 43 games, playing primarily as a shortstop. At the end of the season, he wasn't even on the fringe of the Reds' top 30 prospect list. But today, standing at an intimidating 6 feet 5 inches tall, De La Cruz is one of the tallest shortstops in MLB history. But his height in no way limits him. He is currently one of the fastest ball players in the game. Somehow, the shortstop's career took a major shift for the better after the COVID-19 break, when he survived a major scare. In that period, the Reds cut ties with 48 minor leaguers, but De La Cruz survived, even though the Reds weren't exactly paying so much attention to him. After he survived the major shakeup, he took it upon himself to develop himself. And when he finally had the chance at the Reds post-draft camp in July 2021, the organization met with a different beast. De La Cruz so wowed the team that after a couple games for the Reds' Arizona Complex League team, Reds farm director Sean Pender declared him ready. Pender said, "After I saw him for the first couple games, it was apparent. He hit the ball over the batter's eye left-handed, and then he hit a double right-handed. Then he played third base and made a body control play. I looked over at 2 Reds coaches and said, 'Now I get it. We've got to get him out there. He's ready.'" And yes, Pender was right. De La Cruz was ready. In 2022, he became the first minor league player since George Springer in 2013 to bat .300 with at least 25 home runs and 40 stolen bases. He was also an MLB Organization All-Star, a Midwest League Postseason All-Star, and the Midwest League Prospect of the Year. De La Cruz was named the Reds Minor League Player of the Year, Baseball America's Reds Minor League Player of the Year, and Minor League Baseball's top prospect in the Midwest League. What a transformation! From being the player no one really expected anything from, to being the biggest prospect. On June 6, 2023, following an injury to Nick Senzel, De La Cruz was promoted to the major leagues for the first time, making him the 5th youngest NL ball player at 21 years of age. Since his promotion, De La Cruz has proven to be an immense addition to the team. Teammate Joey Votto, while speaking of De La Cruz, said, "He's the best runner I've ever seen, and he has the most power I've ever seen, and he has the strongest arm I've ever seen." Joey definitely knows more about his teammate than us, and for him to come out and speak so highly of him, it's a clear sign that De La Cruz is making his mark even amongst his teammates. Speaking of making his mark, in a game against the Atlanta Braves on June 23, he hit for the cycle to become the youngest player to do so since Cesar Cedeno in 1972. On July 8, 2023, he became the first Cincinnati Reds ballplayer to steal second, third, and home in the same inning since Greasy Neal in 1919. Think about how crazy that is. In his first season in the Major League, he broke a record that had stood for more than 100 years. But that wasn't the only 100-year-old record he broke in his debut season. That season, he became the second player since 1900 to have at least 5 home runs and 10 steals in the first 20 games of the season. According to Sean Pender, everything is athletic for Elly. When he fields a ground ball, when he throws, when he runs, when he gets going at full speed, the length of his stride is a joy to watch. It's the same way with the swing. It's fluid with great extension. He just stands out. He's just fun to watch and be around, Reds manager Dave Bell said during spring training in 2023. He makes the team better by his personality and the way he plays the game. He does a lot of things on the field that are very special. What a transformation! From being the player no one really expected anything from, to being the biggest prospect. The scary truth about Elly De La Cruz that no one is talking about is his potential. If he continues on this trajectory, he could redefine what it means to be a baseball player in the modern era. His combination of speed, power, and agility is unparalleled, making him a potential game changer and a future Hall of Famer.